Everyone has a backlog these days. Movies, anime, books. But for me, it's gaming. I own over 1,000 games on Steam, and I'ma be honest, I barely played any of them. And it's not just any games, I'm talking about the top rated titles. Skyrim, Red Dead 2, Witcher 3. But they're all just sitting there collecting digital dust. Now you might think, okay, this guy has severe buying issues and has been edging himself for years. Both of which is true. But why? It's not like I don't want to play these games, it's more like that I'm gonna play them eventually. But here's the thing, every time I add another game to my list, whether it's from a sale I couldn't resist or from a friend's recommendation, it feels like I'm making progress. But I'm not. The list never shrinks, it just grows. Why can I watch some random unemployed guy pulling my yearly salary in 2 weeks play games for hours, but I can't seem to play them myself? Am I just a cunt? Why do I keep buying more games when I already have more than enough? Why do I quit so many games after just 2 hours? Why do I even do all this? To answer these questions, we need to go back in time. 1884, the start of capitalism. 2014, the time I created my Steam account. It started simple enough. I added 2 free games to my Steam library. Why? Well, because I was a broke kid and my PC looked like this. Fast forward to today and my Steam library has exploded to 1,000 games. So how did it spiral out of control? Well, to explain, I made this graph. As we go through this section, I refer back to this graph just to show you how ridiculous things actually got. It's not 100% accurate, but it visualizes my buying to playing ratio over the years. It's definitely a tragedy of modern consumerism and yet another victim of limbic capitalism. So let's start with 2016. The year everything changed. 2016 was the year I built my first PC. Suddenly I had access to real games and a little spending money. But hey, with a 15 euros a month budget, how bad could things get? Well, this video is quite long, so back then Russian CD keys were a thing. With a VPN and a little creativity, you could get games for extremely cheap. Now, I of course never did that, because that would be against the terms of service. By the end of the year, I had about 15 games in my library. Not too bad, right? But this was just the beginning. What were you doing on June 4th, 2017? Well, I can't answer that either, but what I can tell you is that I bought Portal and actually played it. Shocking, I know. So it took me some time to realize that buying is not the only thing fun about gaming, playing is also. The same year I bought a lot of other games, so now we are talking about 70 games in the library. But as you can see in this imaginary graph, I barely played any, but this is where things went off the rails. By 2018 my Steam library exploded to about 200 games. Why? Sales, bundles and the legendary VPN trick. What was the legendary VPN trick, you may ask? If you changed your Steam region to Argentina, you could get games like The Forest, 7 Days to Die, Fallout New Vegas and No Man's Skies for 16 euros. Combined. Allegedly, of course, I never did that. By the end of 2018, the graph looked like this. By 2019, you expect this trend to continue. Something surprising happened. I turned 16 and my brain flipped like a light switch. Suddenly I cared less about gaming and more about partying, going out and meeting with girls, so basically all that gay shit. That year my backlog barely grew. Sure, I worked my first job and bought some AAA games, but I played almost nothing. Looking back, 2019 was a weird year. You know these people who make like videos, gaming is not fun anymore? This is how I felt in that year. So touching grass definitely helped me in 2019. What it didn't help though is my Steam library. Thanks to neglect, lack of attention and feeding it monthly with new games, it kept multiplying in the shadows like... I'll let you fill in the blanks here. 2019 was about touching grass, 2020 was about... well... the exact opposite, I guess. Ah yes, 2020, a year we all rather forget. For the sake of our sanity, I will call this year the Great Cough. With everyone stuck at home, you would think, okay, he's finally gonna tackle his backlog. Well, you would be fucking wrong. Instead, I doubled down on multiplayer games like Valorant. It was the beta, okay, it was fine to play Valorant in 2020. CSGO and Rainbow Six Siege. In hindsight, I think I gravitated towards multiplayer games because they felt like a way of socializing when socializing wasn't possible. And keeping 2019 in mind, I definitely was craving that connection. Of course, this also meant that my buying to playing ratio looked kinda like this. But with all that free time, my backlog barely moved. Don't worry, it's about to get worse. What's funny is we all thought this madness is gonna end until the Great Cough surprised us with a sequel. Between 2016 and 2020, my Steam library exploded from 2 games to over 400. And yet, if you look at the graph, you see a familiar pattern. The buying line going up while the playing line barely moves. And I'm gonna be honest, this looks more like a meme than a metric. At that time, the concept of a backlog didn't even register to me. I was just impulsively buying games and playing whatever caught my eye. But if you have been paying attention, you know that 400 games is only the warm-up. 2021 marked the first real attempt of my backlog. But it didn't really go as planned. 2021 was the first year I acknowledged the concept of a backlog. Before this, it wasn't even on my mind. Gaming was, well, just gaming. You buy stuff, play a little, and move on. But by 2021, my Steam library was so bloated that even my friends roasted me. In my friend group, I was the guy with all the games on Steam. Every time someone asked, how many of them have you played? I awkwardly needed to say, I don't know, maybe 10? At first it was funny, but eventually I realized I have a fucking problem. When other people start to notice your struggle and frame you a certain way, you eventually start to believe that. And a collector's mindset is not really what I needed to complete my games. So it was clear something had to change. And luckily for me, the world handed me an opportunity. Classes went online and me and the boys were on Discord all day long. We gamed for hours and the best part, it was fun as f***. After barely playing games for 2 years, gaming suddenly felt fresh again. I can't really explain it. 2021 was just different. I look back at this time with nothing but joy. But fun only gets you so far. If I wanted to tackle my backlog, I needed to actually make progress. So I decided to track every game I played in 2021. 2021 turned out to be the most productive year of my backlog. I kicked it off with Code Vein, an anime Souls-like that was honestly pretty mid. It looked great, but that's about it. Then I finally gave Euro Truck Simulator 2 a real shot. And by real shot, I mean grinding for that bread. Expanding my business, hiring employees, and hauling cargo like a true capitalist. Seriously, I love these type of games. February was all about Apex Legends. I somehow got the entire squad hooked. EA should pay me affiliate money because all of these motherfuckers have over 1,000 hours in this game now. After that, I tried Shinobi Striker, a criminally underrated Naruto game, where you create and customize your own ninja. You could steal abilities from iconic characters and build your own combos. It's a ton of fun and probably the most underrated Naruto game. I definitely need to revisit this game before they shut down the servers for good. This game brought me back to listening to Naruto anime soundtracks, and while doing that I got recommended the following: Doom, the only thing they fear is you. And after a title like that, I immediately thought I need to play this game. So I played the Modern Doom series, 2016 and Doom Eternal. And they were bad. Yeah, you don't want to hear this. They start strong, but after a few hours the novelty just wears off. The level design felt more like a checklist than having actual meaning. I mean, killing demons is fun, but for how long? By March I needed a change. Instead of exploring Elon Musk's dystopia, I decided to explore the rest of the galaxy with Elite Dangerous. No, but seriously, Elon really thinks he can go to Mars and do what? Claim it? This shit is ours. Fucking narcissist. Elite Dangerous is a one-to-one simulation of the Milky Way, with missions, space battles, clans, and capitalism. So basically perfect for me until you run out of fuel in the middle of the galaxy and you have nowhere to go. By April, the initial excitement wore off. I went from having a blast to feeling hollow. Who would have thought that overindulgence would backfire? Sitting at home all day, barely going outside because it was cold and I hate the cold. It felt like I was slowly rotting. So I took a break and watched anime. It wasn't until May that I started gaming again. A charming indie game that you might know from its great art and its very passionate fan base. It's porn. It's straight up porn. You won't find anything else on Twitter about this game. Next up was Resident Evil Village. And if you know me, which you don't, you know that I love Resident Evil. I pre-ordered it, played it in one sitting and thought, it's alright. It wasn't scary, well except this one scene, but not even close to what was Resident Evil 7 for its time. Then came the turning point, Danganronpa. Oh boy. My first proper visual novel. This game wasn't just fun, it was great. I finished it and I immediately thought, I need more of this. So I played the entire trilogy and 100% completed them. Can't remember the last time I was so captivated by a game story. Sure, gaming is fun, but when was the last time I'd experienced this I just played something great feeling? It was probably in 2017 when I played Portal. But to be fair, I haven't played 90% of my library yet. The artworks, the soundtracks, oh my god, don't get me started on the soundtracks, they're so good.
Schizophrenia? How did they know? Look at this guy, fucking simp. By the way, if you ever see a girl cosplaying this character, run.
And the overall story, it's just peak gaming. And if you're still not sold by the idea, I will make a video about them and you will like them. The rest of the year was scattered. I jumped from game to game, trying out a bit of everything without committing too much. It was a mix of experimentation and procrastination. And by the end of 2021, I have played 52 games, my most productive year ever. But let's take a closer look at that list. The sheer variety is insane. Visual novels, RTS, RPGs, simulators, shooters, you name it. And while open-minded sounds great on paper, it has a big downside. Like seriously, I don't understand the people who say gaming is not fun or gaming is dead. You're playing the same multiplayer FPS, so what did you expect? Why would you limit yourself to something so specific? But the real issue is, having too many interests means you're constantly buying games. Every sale feels like a trap. There's always something that catches your interest. And if you're like me, you don't just buy one game, you buy the entire series. Take The Witcher for example. I bought all 3 games thinking I would play them chronologically. 7 years later I'm still on the first one. And the backlog doesn't just grow, it becomes destructive. Adding more games without playing them fuels the cycle. If a game sits in your library for longer than 3 years, it might as well be dead to you. And the only thing left is guilt. Now you might think, why not just stop buying games? While that's a valid question, even if you do that, you're still stuck with too many options. So the real question becomes, where do you even start? Free will is a pretty cool thing if you think about it. You can do whatever you want and you have the choice over your actions. This sounds fucking amazing. Well, in theory that is. When it comes to a backlog, the struggle of choice suddenly becomes your biggest enemy. Tell me, when you were a kid, how many games did you have for your console? Probably not more than 10. But you still played the hell out of them because your choice was limited. Now as an irresponsible adult, you buy everything that captures your interest simply to compensate. In a sale there's a timer, a budget and other marketing strategies in use. But once the game is in your library, it's over. No timer, no budget, just regret. And the worst part, the regret doesn't stop you from buying again. Isn't that fucking crazy? This is literally the definition of insanity. Shit to change. Repeat the cycle a few times and oops, 700 games on Steam. Oh well. It's kinda ironic. The more you buy, the harder the choice to play something. And when you're overwhelmed, you fall back to instant gratification comfort games. War Thunder Tech Tree Grind? Hell yeah. Some random Korean MMO that takes more time than a full-time job to grind? Of course. And that's exactly what happened to me in 2022. Looking back, 2021 was the first year I really tackled my backlog. I played 52 games, more in than any other year. But even with all that progress, my library barely shrank. What should have been a victory was more like a reminder of how fucked I am. Why, you may ask? Well, because the main problems were still there. Too many interests, struggle of choice, and my compulsive buying habits, they were still there. Just look at my graph in 2021. Sure, I played 52 games, but I added 150 more. If you're wondering why I'm wearing a hat now, it's because I live in an immigrant household and it's cold as fuck and I can't use the heater. Can't use the heater until there's snow outside. Oh man. As life went back to normal, well, at least what passes as normal right now, my productivity towards my backlog went too. I played a grand total of 8 games. Huh? That's right, just 8. From 52 games in 2021 to 8 games in 2022. Like, this is not even a downgrade, this is comparable to when the third tower fell. Of course, this number doesn't include live service games. Which one, you may ask? Well, I played Soul Worker and Genshin Impact. I know, I will be chained to a rock and suffer for eternity, but the devil is in the details here. Coming off 2021, I was burnt out. Playing 52 games and being chronically online for a year will do that to you. So naturally, I gravitated towards something easier, brainless, and more convenient. I just wanted something stable. So live service games were the perfect answer. They are everywhere, available on every platform, and get constantly updated. Genshin Impact was just enough stimulation without too much commitment. And the best part, I could easily switch from PC to mobile while commuting or while just waiting around. You do your dailies, you get a few rewards, and do whatever the fuck you want. No pressure, no obligation, no 60-hour story commitment. It's pretty easy. Just enough fun to keep you coming back. So the problem is, I wasn't tackling my backlog, I was playing games that were guaranteed fun. So while they offered an escape, they stole my time for the real challenge, which is my backlog. Live service games are a masterclass in stealing your time. The undisputed kings of this genre are and always will be gacha games. These chick bastards know exactly how to keep your attention. Limited time events, battle passes, dailies for free gems, which is basically just a premium currency with the extra few steps. Limited time skins, weekly quests, guild quests, PvP, even though that one sucks. It's endless. And the worst part, it works. These games are so damn good at wasting your time. They're just brainless enough to be fun, but not demanding enough to stress you out. Most of them even have auto modes which play for you. So the only thing you do is the fun stuff, like gambling and collecting things. So they're obviously a huge reason why I procrastinated on my gaming backlog. And the main problem is, you can spend hundreds of hours in these games, and when you look back, you don't really remember shit. Maybe a fraction of it, but other than that, man. In the time I spent grinding dailies, I could have finished Witcher 3, explored Red Dead 2, commit war crimes in Civ 6, or start a national revolution in Minecraft. But instead, all I got was exclusive Battle Pass skins and premium currency. And that realization hit me like, I don't know, something heavy, I guess. I wasn't just procrastinating, I was sabotaging myself. I felt unmotivated and out of sync with the idea of making progress in my backlog. I knew I had to quit live service games. But when I did, it was still hard to start my freshly installed Red Dead Redemption 2. Every time I tried to start a story game, I felt this overwhelming friction. It felt like there was this invisible barrier, this barrier of entry. And I'm not just talking about like the obvious stuff, like it's easier to get into Call of Duty than the Persona series. No, I mean the mental barriers we create for ourselves. The longer a game sits in your library, the harder it becomes to start it. It's not like I don't want to play these games. I tried. I started The Witcher 3 in my library and thought, today is the day. And then I looked at how long to beat.com and then saw it took 52 hours to complete, which for me is probably like 70. And suddenly it felt impossible. That little dopamine spike from buying the game was long gone. Now it's just a big commitment. The same thing happened to me with big games like EVE Online or the Monster Hunter series. I would start and I would immediately felt overwhelmed by the learning curve or the complexity. I simply thought, you know what? Not today. Naturally, this isn't only my struggle. How many of you haven't played RTS games? Sure, they look complex and totally autistic, but they are fire. This is a similar kind of friction. And if you're wondering how the graph looks like, well, we're nearly there. So this was 2022, a year of friction, avoidance, and falling back into old habits. But here's the thing about barriers. If you can't overcome them, you need to change. Jim Rohn once said, "For things to change, you need to change." In 2023, I followed exactly that philosophy. So what exactly changed, you may ask? Well, I got a job that sucked balls and made me miserable. So you can imagine how my motivation towards my gaming backlog was. Exactly. Little to none. This particular year had a toll on me, and it didn't really help that in the previous year I made no progress at all towards my backlog. But hey, at least I'm level 55 in Genshin Impact now. Oh boy. But as just mentioned, I had a job, which meant I didn't have a lot of time, but I had something else. Money. As you might know by now, I have pretty unhealthy spending habits. And who would have thought that I found plenty of other ways to make my gaming backlog even more complicated. In the recent years, remasters became more and more popular, some of which were great, others were meh, and others were completely unnecessary. Like, come on, what do you mean Spider-Man Remastered? That game released in 2018 and got a remaster in 2022. Get out of here. It's obvious that they're capitalizing on the word remaster because, well, it works. So what does this have to do with a gaming backlog? Well, I personally have this weird issue that I need to play the most authentic version of a game so I can blame people who didn't.
Who even is this? It's more like Star Wars if you ask me. It is perfect.
There's something about finishing a remaster that just feels off. For me, it was Dark Souls Remastered. I finished the game and I loved it. When I looked at the original, it just felt so different. That's why I also hate playing my first playthrough modded in games. I always want to experience the game the team behind it intended it to be, and only after try out what else is possible. So why don't I just buy Dark Souls? Well, because it was delisted from Steam in 2018 and a key for the original cost at least $300, which is honestly one of the worst business practices ever. You would make more money from people like me who would have bought both versions. Isn't that insane? Now I still want to play both versions, which means I'm gonna sail the 7 seas, and honestly it's their fault. I was willing to buy both versions. What's worse is that instead of finishing a game on my backlog, I added one more. Yeah, just don't let my future self know that there are 4 different versions of Persona 3. But why even bother playing a game twice? Well, I care a lot about... When it comes to a gaming backlog, authenticity is simple. It's about playing the most original version of a game. And as you can imagine, that shit is expensive as fuck. I wanted to play Silent Hill for the PS1, so I needed, well, a PS1 and Silent Hill. The console itself, with all the cables, would cost me about 70 euros on eBay. Silent Hill, on the other hand, would cost me about 100 euros, which is insane. Let's talk about the retro gaming market. It's hell. Every auction or listing is filled with overpriced games, sold by people who probably ripped them from some 40-year-old's garage sale for next to nothing, and then resell them for ridiculous prices. So I just dropped the idea entirely. And the worst part about playing a game in its most authentic version is that my Steam library won't get smaller, it just stagnates. Well, unless I buy more, then it just grows. But why does authenticity matter so much to me? Well, chances are, if you're playing a remaster or a PC port, you won't experience the game the original players did. And let's be real, this affects your overall opinion on the game. It's low-key dystopian if people call your favorite classic mediocre simply because they played it the wrong way. It's like going to McDonald's and expecting the Gordon Ramsay burger with 75 million views on YouTube. I can't blame the guy who goes to McDonald's because who the fuck has all the ingredients at home? I know some of you are thinking, when is this guy going to talk about emulators? Well, right now actually. Emulators are quite a feat in technology. Being able to play your favorite classics on your PC with any controller you want and higher graphics sounds like a dream. Or a nightmare, depending on how you view it. If I had to explain it to a non-tech savvy person, Mario on PC. After my devastating defeat trying to get into retro gaming, I went back to the roots and tried to use modern technology to my advantage. Now, the last time I looked into emulators was back in 2018. At that time, I thought they had stagnated. But oh boy, I was wrong. Very wrong. Over the years, emulators have made insane progress. They went from looking like this to this in 5 years. Or at least it felt like it. Who would have thought that in an ever-expanding market, people would join communities and work on projects together? Well, obviously not me. By 2023, I was overwhelmed. There were so many emulators for so many systems. The emulation community had exploded. The progress is truly incredible. So, why are they a problem to my backlog? First off, you have unlimited amount of games to play, which of course you legally load from your hard copy. The second problem, setting them up. Now I know some people love emulation, but I'm picky. I want my things to work a certain way. Acquiring games, BIOS data, metadata, and getting the right image for the specific games, it can take hours. I sometimes think setting up emulators is more fun than actually playing games on them. Take Super Mario Galaxy on Dolphin for example. I got the game, I got my original Wii remotes, set up the controls and was ready to roll. Until I had to fix the installation because my ROM file was faulty. Hard copy of course. And I finally got it running and I quickly noticed it wasn't as fun as I expected. I played about an hour before quitting and I never returned. But did I quit here? Well, of course not. I spent even more hours with emulators. Nintendo Switch emulator works? Sure, I'm gonna try out all these games I don't care about. Ever heard of RetroArch? Well, me too, but trying to get it work the way I want it to be took hours. At least I got retro achievements now. But imagine actually playing games to get these achievements. The problem with emulation is that the more options you have, the more you scale your backlog to, well, infinity. Especially combined with too many interests. And for progress in my backlog in 2023, well, honestly, I have no idea. I'm totally oblivious. Cognitive dissonance and all the other buzzwords I learned from TikTok to sound smarter. It's fair to say in 2023 I tried out new stuff to help me beat my backlog, but well, they didn't help. Instead of helping, these methods just got me overwhelmed and made me procrastinate once again. So I was back in misery. It was like I made 2 steps backwards and just had even more to do now. At this point I was thinking of quitting altogether. I was burnt out, overwhelmed and staring at a mountain that just kept growing. But then came 2024. At the start of 2024, I thought I had the solution to my backlog. It felt like I had the answer I've been searching for. If you haven't noticed by now, it's been 4 fucking years. Of course one purchase won't fix the problem. But you would be a fool to believe that. Because at the start of the year, I went on my usual eBay spree and stumbled upon an interesting auction. A Steam Deck for under 300 euros. That's well below its retail price for its time. As a competitive person, I saw this as a challenge. I lowballed the hell out of this bid, sniping it in the final second, just a few cents over other bidders. And I won. That adrenaline from winning an auction with such a good price, man. I can't explain it to you. This might as well be better than getting that thing for free. If you don't know what the Steam Deck is, it's basically a handheld PC running SteamOS. But for anyone not into tech, let's just call it fake Nintendo Switch. So why did I even buy it? Well, my initial idea was simple. Why not get a portable device so I can play games while commuting, lying in bed, or simply not being stuck at my desk setup? In theory, that sounds reasonable, but that all changed. When my prize finally arrived, I was shocked at how big that bitch really is.
Look at that thing. Beefy as fuck.
I mean, seriously, that thing isn't handy at all. I didn't know I ordered the Switch on a bulk. What the fuck? Trust me when I say you can't take that thing out to play. It's way too big for that. This device is perfect for a certain type of person. If your parents are divorced and you are traveling back and forth between houses, then maybe this is for you. Sure, this is not the optimal scenario to be in, but at least you can play Red Dead 2 on the go.
I know this is not Red Dead 2, but you get the fucking point.
To my surprise, that Steam Deck was so unused, and when booting up a heavy hitter game, it still smelled like plastic, or more like victory.
Can you smell it? Well, I can't either because I'm just sick.
So you might think, okay, you just proceed the year and that thing sits in your room and collects dust just like every game in your Steam library. And my suggestion is that you should wait till I'm finished talking before you start dumping your nonsense to me. I actually played a couple games on my Steam Deck. One of which was Diablo 4, which is... It's alright. It's mid. War Thunder, Forza Horizon 4, because Forza Horizon 5 sucks. Civ 6, Elden Ring, and Paranormal Side, which is already better than last year. I ended up playing a bunch of games I didn't even mean to play. Remember Palworld, the game that blew up and just vanished 1 month after? Yeah, I ended up playing it for 75 hours. Which is, well, way too much if you ask me. All I got out of it was an unfinished base and 400 gigabytes of unused recording data. So why did I play it? Was it FOMO? Was it the friction because I couldn't start games that I already own? Seeing everyone play it and not being able to avoid it? Yeah, it was a mixture of all of it, but it was mostly... Influence is a strange thing. Sometimes it's so obvious and conscious, but other times it's subtle and unconscious. We are all influenced every day, whether we like it or not. It's unavoidable. When it comes to a backlog, influence is one of the biggest factors. Let me give you a non-gaming example. Remember Squid Game? Everyone watched it. It was so huge that even if you didn't want to hear about it, you would hear about it. You would see it everywhere on social media. Tweets, memes, spoilers, it didn't really matter. Eventually, you either watched it or you got a TLDR from YouTube or someone else. This is an extreme example of obvious influence. So let's look at something more subtle. If you watch streamers or YouTubers, you eventually will encounter a sponsor. Most of the time it's a VPN or some silly mobile game. Now, we are probably not gonna play these games or use these services, but what do? They stay on our mind. Take this image for example. You know exactly what the word in the middle is. Or this VPN service. Isn't it crazy? They fucked us. This is subconscious influence. And in 2024, this influence really bothered me and my backlog. At the start of the year, it was Palworld, the game everyone talked about, and it simply vanished 1 month after. Later that year, it was Paranormal Side, the visual novel I mentioned earlier. You need to imagine this. The reason I even knew about this game and played through the entire game was this simple clip on Twitter. Now, why was this so special? Well, most visual novels are 2D. And like the name suggests, it's just a name, words, and voice acting. You know, now that I think about it, it doesn't really say. What I'm trying to say is I was so surprised that you could turn around in a 3D space in a 2D game that I instantly bought and played the entire game. Isn't it crazy? But it didn't stop there. Everyone's favorite of the year. Astrobot, the Elden Ring DLC. I wasn't hyped for it, didn't even plan on getting it, but once everyone around me started talking about it, I pre-ordered it without hesitation. And honestly, I don't really regret it. We are influenced everywhere, every day. So much so that we sometimes don't even realize that we are not making decisions on our own. Which is low-key a cuck activity and probably the reason why so many people won't admit it. What, can't you think for yourself? It should spark the question, do we even want to make decisions anymore? Because as you've seen, we are incredibly indecisive when it comes to taking action. But one of the biggest factors of subconscious influence are reviews. Now this is a topic that deserves its own video, but just let me give you a quick rundown of my thoughts. What is your opinion on this game? It doesn't even matter if you played it or not, but it's probably positive, even though you never played it. The problem is, no one wants to admit that they're getting influenced because, well, they feel like a cuck. But as a wise man once said, admitting is the first step. Reviews are weird and honestly kind of meaningless, but somehow they create this bias in the way we consume media. Think about it, there's so many people who wouldn't buy a game on Steam simply because it has mixed or overwhelmingly negative reviews. Unless of course the game is trying to do it on purpose and is simply rage baiting. But if you flip this around and you see a not so popular game with or overwhelmingly positive reviews, you're suddenly more curious and you want to try it out. And your perception of it will be positive. And you haven't even played it. Isn't that crazy? Now I know that there's a certain type of person who watches reviews before buying a game. They see the number or the score and they consciously or subconsciously treat that as the ultimate truth. Which is honestly fucking ridiculous, but also scary if you think about it. Now I don't want to go on a rant here on people who lack critical thinking or have no opinions. So why is all of that bad? Well, because 90% of reviews suck balls. And every time I watch one, I feel physical pain. Can you imagine that?
Souls-like fan, I'm quite accustomed to the process of dying over and over again.
Watch an IGN review and tell me what this guy said, because you will retain zero information, I guarantee it. In fact, if we go to a random IGN review right now... Okay, you know what? Let's do that right now. The most played area will be the score. Pause. Boom. What? They give it a 9 out of 10? They're fucking retarded. I told you so. Okay. Just for the hell of it, let's do another. Okay. Sims 4. 10-year-old game. Boom. Once again. Most played area. 8 out of 10. Well, I don't know. I let the women decide, and because they are like the only people who play that game. Told you so. And here's why this is bad for a backlog. Backlogs are supposed to be personal. I played God of War 2018 and I didn't like it. I watched and read so many reviews and not a single one of them could convince me for a reason to give it even a 6 out of 10. And yet I wasted so much time trying to 100% this game simply to see if there's this one thing that makes this game so amazing. If you didn't get it, I never got what the hype was about, I'm gonna be honest with you. Now I know that most reviews' purpose are to help with buying decisions, but for me personally, they've become a barrier. I hate to admit it, but reviews really influence me and my perception of a game, even if I don't want them to. I'm really open-minded when diving into a new game. Sometimes even I can't help it and experience this bias. A review I watched or simply this perception. It also seems like there's a cult around reviews, and that is bad for your decision making because you apparently want to play this game that is so good but you're currently not in the phase of life, or you simply don't like it. I mean, I don't want to play Dark Souls after coming back from a 9 to 5. This is a bad example. I fucking love Dark Souls. Put me in a Matrix incubator and let me play Dark Souls for the rest of my life and I'll be fine, but you get the fucking point. So after countless failed attempts of my backlog, I searched for the one ultimate solution. The thing everyone recommended. The most sophisticated and structured approach to a backlog. The best place to search for something like that is Reddit. And to no one's surprise, I found the ultimate tool to clear my backlog once and for all, an Excel spreadsheet. It seems simple, right? Why have all your games floating in your library when you could have them simply organized in a tool that you use every day anyways? You can calculate how many hours they take to complete, you can prioritize them, and even add useful metadata. Sounds perfect to me. Until I realized that it would take me about 8,000 hours to complete my backlog for single player games only. That's nearly a whole year of playing non-stop. And when we add multiplayer games, we're talking about 20,000 hours. Now these numbers are from howlongtobeat.com, and from my experience I take even longer than that. So this is obviously a disaster. The tool that was supposed to help me actually made it worse. The only thing it gave me is more complexity and more friction. It was just another distraction that felt like making progress. The fear of missing out might be one of the easiest methods modern capitalism uses to get us to buy. It's rooted deep in our tribal instincts, and it's been weaponized by marketing and the fear of scarcity. In terms of a backlog, we have limited time sales, bundles, and games that might get delisted, leaving us with the fear that if we don't act now, we'll never be able to get our hands on these titles again. I unfortunately fall for this trick way too often. And I'm also a cheap ass. This combination makes matters worse because I browse SteamDB and deals.gg like it's a fucking hobby, just to see when and which game has the best price so I can buy it and never play it, because I spend more time finding deals than actually playing games. But it's not really the fact that these games are on discount. It's more that they are now visible to you and in front of you. Because frankly, you don't even know half of the games from a Steam winter sale. And because of the urgency that comes with a sale, I tend to buy a lot that I don't need, thinking I'm gonna play it in the future. This is the downside of being open-minded and having a wide interest. One thing that bothers me a lot is also that there are a lot of MMOs out there that could shut down any minute. And I feel the pressure to play them before they are gone forever. But that urgency doesn't just add to the games I'm playing, it adds to the pressure. I buy games not because I want to play them right now, but because I don't want to miss out on the experience in the future. So FOMO got the better of you. So what happens if you buy more than you can handle? Well, you get stuck in the paradox. You buy something new, but have friction of starting. The novelty wears off after a few days, and you buy something new in the hopes of feeling good again, only to realize you're repeating the same cycle. Each time the pressure builds, and instead of diving into your backlog, you procrastinate. Think about it, 1,000 games on Steam. That's not even a backlog anymore. That's more like a monument of wishful thinking. So enough talking about problems. How do we fix all this? Well, there's no single magical solution. That's not how life works. Instead, what I came up with are multiple solutions and principles that will help us to get a deeper understanding why we get ourselves into the situation of a backlog and how we get out of it. We are defeating core problems, not just the symptoms. Let's start with dopamine. And don't worry, I will keep it simple so we are all on the same page. Dopamine is often misunderstood these days, often just reduced to a buzzword for happiness, which is not wrong, but it is so much more than that. We want to see dopamine as a currency, something we trade for pleasure. Nowadays we trade our dopamine without really being conscious of it, which is honestly quite dystopian. Like, how many times a day do you check your phone? How many times do you open TikTok and close it again just to open it automatically again? Or how many of you can't even eat without watching a YouTube video? Maybe you're eating right now. Probably not, we are way deep into this video. If you're still eating, I don't know what you're doing, 5-star meal. If you're a little bit more interested in methods and how it all developed over the years, you can watch the first 20 minutes of the documentary, The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix, or you just pirate it, I don't give a fuck. Watch the first 20 minutes. It's basically a lot of Silicon Valley developers confessing like it's the fucking Nuremberg trials. So in the context of a backlog, it's actually simple. Adding things to our backlog gives us pleasure. The idea of consuming that medium gets us excited. Buying a game, for example, is way more impactful than streaming a random show on Netflix simply because you're not paying for that specific show, but you're paying for that specific game. Which means in this process, our dopamine rises. But it doesn't stay there. Dopamine is like a seesaw. Every time we experience a peak above our baseline, it will drop below it. This is called a dip. That's what my script says. This is crucial because during these dips, we feel low. And what do? Exactly, we repeat the same behavior to experience yet another peak in dopamine, but this time it will be less potent. And if we extend this graph a little, what does this look like to you? Exactly, addiction. So what now? Are we all prone to addiction? Well, kinda, but what you need to understand is the reason we repeat this over and over again is because we want to alleviate pain. If we don't have something, we feel pain. Sure, it's not as painful as, I don't know, stabbing you in the chest, but it's enough for you to strive for a solution. Because this is what dopamine also does. It's a key factor for motivation. Now that you understand the distilled basic version of dopamine, let's see how we can apply this to actually take control of our backlog. The 4 seasons. Okay, I'm not gonna do this. Over the years of trying to tackle my backlog, I noticed a certain pattern. There's certain phases in life I go through that determine my actions that will either lead to making progress towards my backlog or simply yet another bad buying decision. So I decoded this information and what I came up with is this framework. Okay, I didn't really do it. I'm gonna be honest, I stole it from entrepreneurs and, other self-help gurus, but you get the sources in the description. I basically just adjusted it so it works for a fucking backlog, okay? Perplexity, curiosity, intensity, and completion. And it totally makes sense if you think about it, so I'm gonna break it down for you. Perplexity or the lost phase is when you scroll through your library and you kinda want to play something but nothing really sticks out. The curiosity phase is where a certain game or franchise got your interest and you start watching content about it or even get hyped to play it. Intensity is where you play that game and you are in the zone. You enjoy every second and it's fucking amazing. Finally, there's the completion phase. You finished the game and maybe it left you with post-game depression or it didn't. But now you're staring at your library again, back in perplexity. So this season model is more of a cycle, just like in real life. Well, unless you live in the equator, but let's be honest, if you live there you have bigger problems. What we are going to do is leverage this model so it works for us instead of against us. Most of the time we're stuck doing the wrong things at the wrong time. We don't know how to escape the lost phase, or we burn out because the curiosity and intensity phase is simply too addictive. I'm going to introduce you to different concepts and ideas that you probably never heard of in a backlog video before, because if you haven't noticed by now, you can apply all of this shit in real life. So see this as an opportunity for growth as a person instead of, oh my god, I'm gonna finish some games. Let me introduce you to the concept of essentialism. Take a look at this graphic. This might look complicated at first, but it's actually pretty straightforward. The left image is you with your backlog. You start a lot of things, you add a lot of things, you drop a lot of things, and you get nowhere. The image on the right is GigaChat. He focuses on one thing, doesn't start multiple things, and if he drops something, he's just gonna move on because he's fucking GigaChat. Be more like him. So if we look at dopamine again, it all starts to make sense. Spreading your focus and your dopamine doesn't just drain you, it messes with your ability to enjoy things fully. You end up unfocused, burned out, and wondering why nothing feels fun anymore. This might quickly be confused with minimalism, so the key difference here is we are not trying to delete or abandon games forever. We're going to choose the most meaningful and interesting games first and move on afterwards. So to give you an example, for me, it's the 2000s and 2010s classics. So Skyrim, Half-Life, Mass Effect, all of these games. The basic principle here is we are not trying to add things to improve our backlog. We're trying to remove as much as possible and focus on the essentials, because this is how focus works. And if you're thinking, I have ADHD, I can't do that. Like, okay, it might be harder for you, but take some accountability. Like, what the fuck? Are you gonna cry about it? So what this graphic tells us is that less is better. So how do we practically apply this to our backlog? First, let's talk about buying issues. And trust me, this is where most of us fuck up. This also goes for people who pirate games. Like, you're in the same boat. I want you to understand one thing. Buying games and collecting games are two different hobbies. Shout out to this one guy who makes like book reviews and all that, who has like a home library. Realizing this is the first step to solve the buying issue. As mentioned previously, buying spikes our dopamine, which isn't a bad thing, but if you're having buying issues like me, it obviously is. So what can we do about this? One thing that worked magically for me is only buying games that I would play right now, which is easier said than done because there are deals nowadays that are just too good to be true. Remember the news Need for Speed? Well, me neither, but it was on sale for €4, 1 year after its release. Isn't that insane? Especially for a AAA game. And that's the point, I haven't played it yet. Okay. I never should have bought it in the first place. The same goes for bundling purchases. Unless it's something that is rarely on sale or soon to be delisted, don't do it. Trust me, don't do it. You're not playing these games anytime soon. What finally made me stop bundling purchases was Steam's new policy. It straight up tells you, yo, you don't own this game, you just own a license. Okay, this policy is not new, but now they tell you. Which, I'm gonna be honest, is quite depressing. This should be an eye-opener for you. You're not missing out on a sale if it's not even yours. That's artificial scarcity. Just sail the 7 seas, I'm gonna be honest. Oh, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to promote piracy. I'm not, you know, piracy real, Somalian pirate, that's illegal too. When it comes to full price games that are now $70, or now even with the Switch to 90 or 80, something like that, I don't buy them at all. That's way too much for a mediocre game, especially if it will be on sale 1 month after its release. The only reason I would buy something like this is if I could make more money out of it. Quality to price ratio is just simply too low. And honestly, you should have that respect for yourself too. Because you're getting fucking scammed. Like seriously, you are getting scammed. Another reason we should stop buying games is obviously because we won't focus on the games we already have. There's something in business called the shiny object syndrome. It basically states that people tend to switch business models as soon as something new, lucrative pops up, and it's easier to switch to it than staying consistent on your current business. And just like in business, chasing shiny new things won't get you anywhere. Graphic. Can you even see this shit? This is you and your backlog, scattered, unfocused and stuck. Stop buying new games that you don't need. Take Persona 3 Portable for example. Why would I buy the new remake with 20 DLCs if I already have the original? Well, I guess Portable is not the original, but you get the fucking point. Thinking like this is way healthier than, oh, I need to buy the entire series and I'm gonna play it eventually. What the fuck? Another tweak that you can apply is going into the Steam settings and disabling pop-up ads. And trust me, this might seem simple, but this little fucking pop-up ad really got me. Like I always scroll through it and click on it and suddenly I'm on the Steam store page and fucked. So disable it and it will drastically help, trust me. As you might know by now, I always search for the key price of a game that I want to buy. And most of the time it's the same price as the sale, even after the sale. So you're not really missing out. What I also highly recommend is changing your standard Steam opening page to your library instead of your store page. So that shit is out of your sight. The best thing we can do to stop our buying addiction is stop buying entirely for 1 month. Sounds simple, but it can be hard for others. And I am other. So we don't want to access the Steam store page for at least 30 days. And after that period, you will see for yourself that your dopamine baseline is back to normal and you don't have the same desires as before. This is of course considering you don't go into any other store and buy games there, and overall your dopamine, which is nowadays pretty fucked for most people, like me included. When it comes to subscription services like the Xbox Game Pass, ask yourself this: do I really play games from that Game Pass? Is it worth my money? If you answered no for at least one of these questions, cancel it for at least 30 days and see for yourself. You ain't missing shit, these subscription services are bloated anyways. One thing I got back to was buying physical games again. Now, as a PC gamer, this has been basically dead for a decade now. Like a DVD box with a key and not even a cool manual or a map. Like what the fuck? That's fucking depressing. Older games, for example, still have a DVD.
Whole ass tutorial. That was the wikis of the 2000s. Parks und Erholungsgebiete.
I know most of your PCs don't even have a DVD player because you're the new generation and I'm old and cool, but it's not about that. You can buy the physical and the Steam version, and for some reason that really works. I bought a visual novel of Manga Gamer, and yes, I'm talking about visual novels again, and they give you a physical box, a DVD and a Steam key. Isn't that amazing? Imagine if every company would be this thoughtful. Wow. But why the fuck even spend money on physical games if you don't use them? There's just something about holding a game in your hands. Using all your senses God gave you to appreciate the craftsmanship of 2000s consumerism. It's just amazing. And also, buying physical games will give you so much more accountability because you will probably have them on the shelf. And they kind of look nice, not gonna lie. What do we do with all these games we've ignored that might as well be rotten? It's simple. If you have any burning interest, don't overthink it. Play it right now. If you have multiple interests, create a list on Steam or any other platform and choose 3 to 5 games that seem interesting to you right now and play only them. And less is better in this case. So if you only have one, just create a list, put this one game in this library. And then play all of them. Only these exist for now. I have 4 separate lists on Steam. Current, completed, abandoned and unplayed. Steam can automatically create the unplayed list for you, though depending on your library size and usage, it might work for better or for worse. It only tracks games that you've never touched. Which means if you ever used a Steam card farmer or anything similar, or simply started the game out of curiosity, it won't track it. And well, if your library is huge like mine, good luck with that. Having this visual representation helps us a lot, especially if you like to track your progress. But what do we do if we have no interest or simply too many? You might have some low-key interest in something, but not really. Especially if it's been in your library for way too long. I kinda fucked up the Y here. So ignore this, okay. Friction is a protection mechanism from our brain to prevent us from doing hard and painful things. You feel this when forcing yourself to go to the gym or starting important work. But why do we feel friction towards something that is supposed to be fun? There are plenty of reasons, but we've come to see story games as boring and a big commitment. Which they kinda are, not gonna lie. This could come from anywhere, but one of the most popular reasons is that we are addicted to easy to digest games, or how TikTok calls them, comfort games. When was the last time you watched a skippable cutscene in a story game? Exactly. These easy to digest, low commitment, instant gratification games only add towards the friction we feel towards the games we actually want to play. The best thing you can do for your backlog and your sanity is quit live service games altogether. Now, I don't want to be that guy, but at least use them more sporadically, like, I don't know, you're commuting and you have nothing else to do, or simply in specific phases. I think it's totally valid for a backlog to say, okay, I want to grind this MMO, I'm gonna reach end level and only gonna play again if there's like a new DLC or a new big update. But playing daily and weekly is fatal. And if you're thinking, I have a low attention span, I can't play story games. First of all, shame on you for admitting that, let alone being proud of it. If we all have the attention span of a goldfish, how can we watch a 2-hour movie or a 5-hour video essay? How can we binge an entire season of a show? How can we play video games and didn't notice that the time went by? The real issue isn't attention span, it's interest and focus. Modern life dulled both interest and focus, making it even harder to build momentum and start something new. This build-up is what people call attention span. Well, at least I think so. This is completely bro science, by the way, but let's be honest, it makes sense. It's funny because every time you watch a YouTuber talk about YouTube videos and creating content, they always say, and the viewer loses interest. But I'm also not surprised because we live in a buzzword society, so people just say things and repeat them in the comment section without even fact checking it or, I don't know, being interested. So what do we do to defeat friction? Well, we can't really defeat it because it's part of human nature. But what we can do is lower the barrier of entry to create interest and focus. When people talk about their passions, they always mention how interesting they are. But rarely do we stop and actively think, how can we create interest ourselves? Or even force it when necessary. Usually this comes automatically when we are exposed to a certain thing. Let's explore why this is even necessary, especially in a backlog. There's something called the Zeigarnik effect, which basically states that we remember unfinished tasks more than we do finished ones. This is crucial to understand our backlog. To our brain, unfinished tasks are unfinished games. And they're subconsciously linked to discomfort, aka pain. And our brain is actively trying to avoid pain, hence why it's chasing dopamine. Chances are you already have unplayed or abandoned games in your library, which only reinforces the cycle. We're going to sprinkle a little dopamine on these old dusty backlog games to reignite interest. And luckily in gaming, it's one of the easiest things to do. We do it all the time for new movies or TV shows, but when was the last time you watched a trailer from an old game of your backlog? Well, from here on it's gonna be me and you. What's funny is that older game trailers are fucking incredible. It might seem weird, but trust me. Watching them can really rekindle that excitement for older games. Go watch trailers for the old games you already have. Another method is exploring other related content like soundtracks, developer interviews, memes, or even reaction videos. All of these can spark interest so much that we want to see it ourselves, and we basically sold ourselves to play the game. For example, listening to the GTA 4 soundtrack can hype you up so much that you actually want to play the game. Or seeing new Skyrim mods can tempt you to reinstall the game right away. For me, one simple Twitter meme was enough for me to play an entire visual novel. Sometimes it's really that simple. Now you might think, okay, this type of content is a huge spoiler towards a game, which technically you're not wrong, but is it a bad thing? Say you're neutral towards a game, then you see a spoiler through a meme. Whether it annoys you or gets you hyped to see the scene yourself, it creates interest. This creates a form of mystery and curiosity. And if it does that, you're basically sold. I mean, you could also just ask ChatGPT to do that for you. Might as well use AI before it uses us. It's important to not overdo it. For me personally, one solid recommendation or one meme is enough for me to convince me to play the entire game. But overall, I enjoy going into a game blind. I'm talking about not even reading the description. But we're not the same, so know your limit. The first time I played Danganronpa, I didn't know it was a killing game. Even though it says that literally in the description. So you can imagine, when playing the game, I was more than surprised of the outcome. And let's just say it captivated my interest. Like I said, it's about balance. Don't do too much, but also don't do too little. Experiment and see what suits you. Here's something you shouldn't do. Going to howlong.beat.com before starting a game. You see, if you're employed or you have limited time, you basically fuck yourself over with this. You can't afford to start a 60-hour story game. You never start no matter how high the interest is. Or even worse, you drop it. This is why I personally don't look at it at all and just play the game. When it comes to reviews, you really should be careful because, as you've seen previously, I don't like them, and you should be careful because they can really fuck with you. First of all, IGN is trash. Second of all, no matter how bad the review is, the score stays on your mind. There's something about reviews that makes us human go back to the primal age and makes us think that the tribe is agreeing on something. So we subconsciously agree with that score. Every time I listen to MBDTF, I see that fucking 6 out of 10 from Anthony Fantano. I love the album, but this score is rent-free on my mind. I think for most people who play only one genre of games, you should really try out different ones. For some reason, so many people have an insane judgment towards games that they never played. I don't really get it. Like, how old are you, 14? Seriously, if you personally are that person, try out new things. It's also crucial to take action quickly. Interest, especially in today's day and age of constant information overload, is short-lived. So make the best out of it, because after every high there comes a low. What we're doing here is leverage our content consumption so it works for us instead of against us. So consume content about the games of your backlog, look what interests you the most and play it. The last point is creating interest towards the pursuit of a backlog. What does that mean? It means giving it a greater purpose. For a few people, it might be enough simply playing the games they've set themselves up to. But for me, I need a greater purpose, especially on the long run. I specifically do all of this for you. Yes, you, motherfucker. I want to create YouTube videos and live stream to make content out of my backlog, share my opinions and make banger videos. This is the whole purpose of my backlog. Take some time to reflect on why you're doing all this. If you can connect it to your core emotions, you are basically sold. There's nothing that stops you, trust me. Also follow my Twitch, catgirllover1056.tv. No, never mind, it's twitch.tv. Okay, who gives a shit? Now that we figured out how to make our old games more desirable, let's look at how we can actually play games. I know this might sound ridiculous, but we are all basically fucked. In this modern day and age, while playing games on a PC, we tend to do things while doing so. Watching a YouTube video on a second monitor, listening to music, or talking to friends. Or all together, I guess. This reminds me of a friend who needed a YouTube video running in the background on his phone while we were playing Overwatch in 2017. Isn't that insane? Like, he was ahead of his time, but in all the wrong way. Like, should have invested in Bitcoin instead. Stacking stimulants like this completely drains our dopamine levels. It's fatal. And you set yourself up for failure because the main thing, being the game, is obviously not interesting enough for you. Which means your whole perception of that game is simply screwed. Imagine someone calling your favorite game mid simply because they couldn't finish it without having a Twitch stream in the background. That's reality right now. We all should take a look at visual novels. I know this video sounds like a fucking ad to visual novels, but just hear me out. When playing a visual novel, you have no choice but to play it without external stimuli. You're focused on the text and images, and there's always music or sound effects playing in the background. Some even have voice acting too, which basically makes it impossible to do anything in the background. And once again, this ties back to essentialism. The goal is to be more mindful on how we consume media. Once you've built interest towards a game, focus only on playing that game, nothing else. Like, I'm talking about no show, no fucking book, no TikTok, just the game. This might seem hard at first, but trust me, try this for at least 3 days and you will see the results yourself. You start enjoying games way more and they start being meaningful and fun again. This is why in these gaming is not fun anymore videos, people say to take a break. Taking a break helps reset your dopamine baseline. But what we are trying to do here is remove the external stimuli first. I think most multiplayer games screwed us over here because there we do repeatable tasks that we even can do subconsciously without really being, you know, really there. So what you have to do is raw dog that bitch, no external stimuli. Turn off your second monitor, or even if you have more, turn all of them off. Just the main one. That's what console players do. And look at them. They're having a blast. Like, every time you hear someone, oh, just finished Red Dead 2, it's always the console player. It's never a PC player. Because they're fucking busy having a second monitor for fucking Discord. Discord, especially this one, vertical. Oh my god. Get the fuck out of here, seriously. So if you do all that, we can still adjust a few things in-game that helps us to be more focused. Let me ask you this, when you are playing a game for the first time, which difficulty are you choosing? I usually go with normal so I can adjust it later. Or at least this is what I tell myself. More often than ever I stay on normal difficulty, and the problem is that it is way too easy. Adjust the difficulty to suit your experience and skill level, whether it means increasing or lowering it. You might have heard of the flow state, which is basically when you are in the zone, and all of us have experienced that with games in the past. One reason was the difficulty. So if we look at what the flow states consists of, we see that flow happens when the challenge slightly exceeds your skill level. That's probably why Dark Souls is so addicting. Keeping you engaged but not overwhelmed. It's like progressively overloading in the gym. Otherwise it's way too easy and becomes boring and you make no gains. I mean, I guess it kind of depends, but you get what I'm saying. But you also don't want to overdo it, because then you get anxious and frustrated. Whether that's true or not, I think it's pretty clear that you shouldn't do it way too hard, right? Unless you have a big ego. Every game that requires skill or has a rank mode basically does that automatically. You get better enemies or enemies on your skill level, so you need to improve, which gets us closer to the flow state. And in single player games, we can do this exact same thing with the difficulty. So next time you play a game, adjust the difficulty. One tool that also helps us is setting aside a time when we are gonna play a game. This might be different depending on which life situation you are in. Obviously, if you go to school, you most likely just want to hop on the console or fucking PC right after school. Scheduling a specific time for gaming can make the experience more mindful, meaningful, and fun overall. But like I said, it depends. If you schedule God of War for 8 PM to 10 PM after work, you probably don't have enough focus left and maybe you don't even want to play it. And honestly, if you ask me, you shouldn't bother with that mid-game anyways. But what it does do is, it makes gaming a conscious decision. When having a time slot for gaming or a specific time frame when you're gonna game, it should be a conscious decision. What do I mean by that? Well, you shouldn't automatically boot up your PC and automatically boot up the game. We usually do that with live service games because they're way more brainless. But if we want this to be more impactful, we need to really think about, should we start this game now and should we play it now? Remember, gaming is supposed to be enjoyable and not an obligation. Meaning you might set aside a certain time to play a certain game, but you might not want to play it at this time. Or simply you can't because, I don't know, you have a family or something. Which is totally okay, because in the end of the day, we're trying to have fun here and not force ourselves to do anything. You should force yourself to do something that you don't want to do but has positive outcomes, like, I don't know, going to the gym. They are totally push through that fucking pain. But in gaming, that is supposed to be fun. We don't do that shit as a competition or a new gooning streak. Why did I say that? Why is that in the script? Like, seriously. Start small and build up gradually. If you barely played any games in the last few years, don't start with a 60-hour banger. Sure, you would be able to finish something like that years ago, but humble your fucking ego because you're not that guy anymore. But with time and effort, you get there. Again. I personally would start with smaller games, like for example Half-Life, that you can finish in one sitting, simply to build this momentum and give you a little encouragement. And finally, don't be afraid to quit a game if it simply doesn't suit you. Like I said, it's supposed to be fun and not an obligation. If you don't like it, maybe you like it in a few years, maybe you don't like it at all, I don't give a fuck. It's like, no one is forcing you to play it, right? It's a game. As you can see, the environment changed a little. The reason for that is that it's like 3 PM. And usually I record at like fucking 1 AM. So now I can scream. Ah! Also I got... So applying all this eventually leads us to completing a game. But before we get there, let's talk about a few things. During the intensity phase, you might find yourself losing interest, disliking aspects of the game, or simply getting bored. So what should you do? Well, the easiest answer is to abandon it temporarily. Don't get the wrong idea. If you're unsure about abandoning it, Try the techniques we discovered earlier. Create interest by consuming content about that game, or check what happens later in the story. All of this doesn't work. Throw that bitch into the abandoned pile. Temporarily. Imagine a 30-game backlog. You pick 3 games to play for the next few months, you abandon 2 halfway and add 2 new ones. Eventually you realize that you completed a lot of games and explored a variety, assuming you didn't buy new ones. And if you did, you weren't paying attention. Go back to the fucking video, okay? Don't buy new games. If you're watching this far, you can't do it. You can't buy new games. That's a rule. Over time, the abandoned pile might even get interesting again. Because sometimes a game just needs the right time and space to be played. When I played Tomb Raider 2013, I had the exact same thing. I was so bored during the game, but everyone told me that it was so great, so I kept playing it. I even went so far and tried to 100% complete it, which didn't work because there was this stupid bug with the mines, I remember. This was in 2017, by the way, and I still remember. I disliked the game and still played it, and honestly, it wasn't worth it. And now that I think about it, I even bought the entire series, and you can imagine how that went. In hindsight, I should have abandoned it. But you know what they say about Tauruses. Listen to yourself. Sometimes it can be better to bite the bullet and play through something that seems boring first. But most of the time it's more productive to simply abandon it and either revisit it later or simply let it go. What if we just completed a game and it was so amazing that we want to replay it or even do all the achievements? What should we do? Because after all, there are a lot of other games waiting for us. The answer is pretty simple. First of all, if you really want to replay it and you still have the interest, do it right away. Don't overthink it, do it. I would say exhaust as much as you can out of the game because most likely you won't revisit it anytime soon or never again. But that really depends because I think there are certain games that leave such an impact on you that you can't replay them. Or at least not right away. You sit there and you are just like, man. That's by the way Portal. I still haven't played Portal. Replayed. I played it in 2017, which was like too long ago. But it still left an impact on me, isn't that crazy? These games give you a post-game depression. And with what we learned by now, we actually know why that happens. If you have post-depression of a certain media because it was so good or so impactful, we can actually look at the dopamine graph again. One last time, I promise. There are probably a lot of more things happening, but it's way easier to visualize and understand with simply dopamine, okay? Just so you get it. Throughout the game, your dopamine levels were consistently high, peaking at certain moments and being the highest at the ending. Once it's over, there's nothing left. So your dopamine crashes harder than the meme coin you invested in. That crash is literally called a depression. Okay, that's what the word comes from. And what can we do about that? Honestly, nothing. Instead, we should be grateful that we can experience such an impactful moment with a medium like gaming. Seriously. And if you're part of the people who usually tend to replay this game or watch a lot of content about it afterwards, I wouldn't recommend it. The reason is that, as crazy as this might sound, you're chasing that high again. But everyone is different, so see what works for you. I usually wait years before replaying something. But if you can't wait, go for it. But just remember, it won't hit the same as in the first time. It never does. The audio didn't record. I need to re-record the entire video. This has to be worse than 9/11. When it comes to 100%ing a game, it really depends on the game. I had a phase where I 100%ed every game I played, especially old ones, because there it felt like the developers actually cared about the 100% content. Unlike nowadays. Modern games unfortunately have so many repeatable and redundant tasks, like collect 250 fragments, but 3 of them are bugged because we ported a shitty PC version. And now all your efforts are for the gutter. Yeah, fucking Far Cry 3, dude. what is important to mention is that you don't need to do that. I know this sounds crazy, but some people are victims to the sunk cost bias or fallacy. I don't really give a fuck, right? Meaning, they bought a game for $60 and now they want to extract as much value as they can out of that game because they paid $60, and that's a big commitment. And honestly, that is a toxic mindset you should avoid. You might think, doesn't 100%ing a game actually go against essentialism? Yes, and if your goal is to get as efficiently as possible through your backlog, then you might be right. But you forget that we are trying to have fun here. Yes, I'm that guy. Fun. Okay, fun maxing. 40-year-old boomer advice. Yes, I don't really want to be that guy, but in this case, it's the truth, okay? You're not doing that for anyone or for anything else. I think you should decide for yourself if you want to 100% a game or not. Do the research. Is it a good game to 100%? Is it unique and fun? Like GTA 5, for example. Watch walkthroughs or similar, like previously. Create interest if it's not already there. Because 100%ing a game, depending on the game, often is such a big commitment that it feels like playing another game. Ask yourself, do I really want to play the game further, or am I falling for the fallacy? Making a conscious decision here is crucial. If you decide to commit, it's very important to not start another game while doing so. I know this sounds obvious, but when finishing a game and then going for the 100%, you often feel tempted to start yet another game because the barrier of entry is higher on your game than the curiosity and interest on the new game. In the end, 100%ing a game is your choice. It's a commitment and not an obligation. Decide for yourself and make it worth your time. The first thing you should do after finishing a game is reflect on your experience. What do I mean by that? Write a review, give the game a score, make a YouTube video about it. You don't have to publish it. Take time thinking about the game on your own without being influenced by third-party opinions. This is crucial for leveling up your critical thinking skills and breaking biases and ultimately enjoying games more. Stop being a cuck to random opinions online. Seriously. Maybe recording yourself is not your thing, but at least write down your experience immediately after you played that game. This can also make this whole gaming backlog journey way more meaningful. You could also talk with your friends about it, if you have any. The point is, don't just let the information in your head. You're also supposed to produce and not only consume. Taking time to reflect also helps resetting your dopamine baseline. Instead of constantly chasing a new high, you're actually appreciating on what you already experienced. What I also have is my own rating system, and it kinda looks like this. My system is a recalibration of modern reviews. Because in today's modern day and age, people will say something is mid and give it a 7 out of 10. Like, excuse me, are you fucking retarded? Or people just don't want to rate something low because it feels bad. Oh, sorry that I didn't give a fuck about your feelings. You released something to the public, so expect criticism. Now, I'm not a hater. My criticism is valid. You know, now that I think about it, this is what a hater would say. I just want things to improve. So here's my scale I use. It goes from 1 to 10 and uses decimals. 1 is horrendous, 5 is mid, and 10 is a masterpiece. So you can imagine that the new mid is a 5 out of 10 instead of a 7 out of 10, which will make things so much better. We seriously need to start quantifying our reviews by the media we consume. Listen, the more media you experience, the better you get at recognizing what is truly mid and what is truly amazing. Once that is done, I throw that game into the played section. And this acts like a personal scoreboard. It's not about competition, this is just for yourself. I'm gonna repeat this a couple of times because otherwise people will use my tools to rush through their backlogs and, like, I don't know, make a Twitter post, oh my god, I played 500 games in a year. And this is not the purpose of this fucking video. And if you do that, I will feel like fucking Oppenheimer. It's not just about the backlog, it's about appreciating the journey. But that sounds gay as fuck, so let's just say it's about pride, honor and dignity. So after finishing a game, the best thing you can do is to take a break. I know no one wants to hear that, but the dopamine graph proves it. After finishing a game, a high stimulant activity, you need a break to recover. If you jump straight into other stimulants, you just screw yourself over and nothing feels fun anymore. And for people who have been gaming for a long time, you should take even longer breaks. So next time you say gaming is not fun, it's not because of the game, it's because you fucked yourself over with technology. Take some fucking accountability, no one is coming to save you. So in the break season I would take a minimum break of 3 days. If you work a job, you probably do that automatically. Important is during that break season, don't indulge in other extreme stimulant activities as a cope. This will only kill your motivation and drive. You need to take a break, preferably from all technology, and then repeat the cycle. Imagine it like a lion. You hunt for 2 hours a day and sleep for 22 hours. I don't know, I heard that on TikTok. I don't even know if that shit is true. But ever since I saw like lions, you know, they can't even scream. They don't even do the roar. That's actually tigers. You know that one intro from these old shows and movies? There's a lion roar. And it's not even lion sound, it's a tiger sound. The point is, this takes discipline and won't be easy in the beginning. And if you get bored during this period, good. Boredom is not a bad thing. Seriously, this sounds so weird, but in this modern day and age, it needs to be said because we fuck ourselves over daily. Literally be bored during this period because boredom drives us to action, which makes the whole perplexity phase easier. We do all this to reset our dopamine baseline and get back to normal. I'll give you an example. The last time I played Call of Duty was in 2019. And in 2023 I bought Modern Warfare 3. It felt amazing. Not because the game is good, but the break was so long that I actually started to have fun with the basic mechanics of Call of Duty. So embrace the break season, do something in real life. I know that it's probably just chronically online people watching, but don't indulge, do something in real life, okay? Like, I don't know, what can you do? No friends, no money, no job, no car. I don't know, do like the 19-year-old walker meme, you know, just walk around your fucking city. That would actually help, you know. And when you come back, everything will feel fresh again. And gaming is fun and not just another chore. One thing I need to repeat is that don't do it as a competition. If you're competitive, use it for something that will benefit your life. Do it at the gym, do that as sport, do that fucking making money, do that, I don't know, being a good family member, do that as a good member of society, do something productive, okay? Because this gaming thing is just a hobby. If you're gonna be competitive, do it as something useful. This is just like the people who say, I read 100 books a year. Yeah, okay, good for you. First of all, how much of this did you even retain? And no one really gives a fuck, right? Quantity here is not the goal. And also, you will most likely regret it. Ask anyone who watched like the fucking top 100 IMDb or Letterboxd movies in his 20s. Ask them and they will say, I regret it. It's also important to say that you shouldn't do overly long breaks unless you really need to. The longer the break, the harder it becomes to reignite that interest towards that game you put on your current list. That's why it's better to remove or not have any games on your current list if you're taking a break that is longer than, let's say, 30 days. This is just like in the gym. Imagine you're consistent in the gym, you get stronger, you get fitter, but then you quit for like 2 months and now you want to get back, but it's not really the same anymore because you're weaker and you need to build up that momentum. And the reason this whole cycle even works is momentum. The more that you repeat the cycle, the more momentum you build. Sure, this is also kind of contradicting with the less is more philosophy, but it's also about balance because that's how we humans work. Use momentum to stay consistent, but keep your focus narrow. To build momentum the best way, we need to shoot low. What does it mean? It means that after this video, you're not gonna fucking play Witcher 3. You're gonna start with a game that you can preferably play in one sitting. As mentioned previously, Half-Life. What else? One sitting. They're probably like Journey. How long is that? 2 hours? 3 hours? You get what I'm saying. But why? Because after finishing a game that is shorter, we do like 1 rep at the gym. Because remember, you're not that guy anymore. You can't fucking play Witcher 3 and finish it. You will quit and, I don't know, fuck off and be depressed again. So start low and build up gradually. So we are almost at the end of this video. So let's talk about third-party tools that might help, but also might be more of an obstacle. Because remember, less is more. But at certain times, third-party tools can be a game changer. When does the Steam Deck make sense? Honestly, only if you can't play on your PC setup regularly or you need something portable to game. But for everyone else, totally redundant. It's definitely a luxury that suits certain type of people. I would argue and say only like 10 to 20% of people who bought a Steam Deck actually use it the way it's intended to be. Like you always see all these millennials and boomers and they go like, I don't know, they hang out with their wife in the living room and they game on their Steam Deck and the wife watches her favorite Netflix show, and it's totally valid, but it's most likely not fucking you, okay? I know my audience. And you also won't magically finish more games if you buy it. It's about you, not the tools you use. What I also bought was this thing, the Mio Mini Plus. This is basically a handheld console that can emulate a lot of systems. It might even turn on. Okay, that's gonna take a while. I bought that thing about 2 years ago. I even bought a bigger SD card so I can load it up with more games. And guess what? I haven't played a single game on it. I tried out a few, but I haven't played through one, okay? The main reason is because, well, when I play a game, I like to record it or live stream it, which is basically not possible with that thing. And also, it's more of a gimmick than an actual tool that will help you. This is like, you know, nice to have, and people actually like to, you know, set it up rather than actually play on it, I'm gonna be honest. And then there's the Nintendo Switch. And honestly, this is only worth it if you really want to play exclusive Nintendo titles, which you might also be able to play in another way, but that is not the point of this video. If you're a Nintendo fan, you most likely already have a Switch, so this is basically a no-brainer. So we've covered the gadgets, but what about software people use to tackle their backlog? As mentioned before in the solutions arc, instead of using a tracker or spreadsheets, I use Steam's built-in features. And even there, I limit my choice to 3 to 5 games at once. I need to acknowledge that there are tools and trackers out there that are quite fancy that might help you to tackle your backlog. But in my opinion, they are more of a scoreboard and show off than an actual tool to help you. Most of them are built like social media websites, which also means you're spending way more time on them than you actually want to. And you also check out other people's profiles and see what they are playing, what is their opinion and all that. Basically, for me, waste of time. For you, most likely also. Because in the end of the day, this isn't productive. It feels productive, but it isn't. I mentioned briefly that you could use AI to enhance your backlog experience. I personally wouldn't do it like you expect it to do. I think AI is great if you use it as an assistant rather than the inventor. If you're using AI, don't ask what game should I play, ask how can I make this specific game I picked more appealing to me. The main thing here is you should ask AI, how can I increase my interest towards that game? Leverage AI and use your brain a little and you will see actual results. Throughout my research, I discovered different forums and communities, and my overall opinion is they can be cool, but they are most likely cope. Most people on there don't really practice what they are preaching and just give shallow, redundant advice. They can be very cool though, because if you're already on your journey and you share it with other people, that could be cool, and you most likely won't have friends. This is why I created a Steam group and a Discord where we can discuss exactly these things. So join them, but if you don't want to, then fucking don't, okay? I don't give a fuck. My goal is to build a community that shares their experiences with others and gives advice that is not fucking redundant ChatGPT top 10 things to do with a backlog how to beat your backlog, how I played 50 games in 1 hour advice, you know, like we are talking about the real fucking advice here. So in the end, most tools are more of a distraction than actually helpful. But hey, try them out if you're confident they work for you. From my experience and observations though, they won't. They are cope. So this really is the definite guide on how to understand and conquer your backlog. In this 90-minute yappathon, you hopefully learned what you should and shouldn't do, how to do everything, and how to not be a bitch, I guess. This might be the best guide on this particular topic on this platform, because frankly, on here, a lot of people simply talk a lot but don't say anything. If you got any other advice that worked for you that is not redundant Reddit advice, share them in the comments or in the community. You should follow my Twitch to follow me on my journey for completing my gaming backlog. Or just remember my name as soon as the new video pops up. So take what we've learned, tackle your backlog, and make sure to check out my second channel, CatGirlLover1056, for absolutely nothing.